Hey, Dylan.
Hey, Fran, how are you doing?
Pretty good.
Hello.
Hey there, I'm Sinead.
I'm Adam. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hello, Sydney. How are you?
How you doing?
Hi, Eric. How are you doing?
Hey, Adam, how's it going? Hey, guys. Nice to see you again, Sinead. John, Sydney.
Hi, Eric. Nice to see you too. Nice to see you and meet everybody.
Yeah, this will be interesting, I think. I think we should, I know that there are two members that won't be here at 6. Phil Shea won't be here at all, and Bradley Budenheiser from the Conservation Commission is going to be running late. So we are waiting for Diane Trad, and who's the Deputy Director of DPD, and Troy DePisa from the Historic Board. Are the two other folks who were supposed to be here. We also will have some nonprofit partners, it seems, joining us.
Is this the very first we meet, or is there like CPC before this? Anybody?
This is the first meeting of the CPC in Lowell ever. So, groundbreaking.
Yeah, momentous. We should have some sort of commemorative pin or something.
Yeah, there ought to be some
streamers, flowers.
streamers.
Yeah.
We should all get a watch or something.
Uh-huh.
Let's not get carried away.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, that's usually for the last meeting, right, Eric?
Yeah, that's true.
I'd be happy with a pin.
Welcome, Troy.
Hi,
Thanks for joining.
how are you? Thank you.
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
So we have one more member that we know is RSVP that they would be here at 6. So we're just waiting for Diane Trad. So hopefully she will be on shortly. We'll give her a couple more minutes, and if she's not here, we'll go ahead and get started. Adam, I think she might have some senioritis. as in getting ready to graduate, not as in
Yeah,
being.
right. Is she? This probably be her only meeting, right? Because she's here ex officio, right?
Well, she's 2 weeks from Friday. She's it's her last day, so she will sign into this meeting, and we'll see what happens after that.
Is that Diane?
Yes, Diane put in her retirement. So
Oh, great. I didn't know that.
yeah, she's retiring effective the 26th. So it's
So she actually needs the gold watch. That's
yeah, first meeting and the gold watch for Diane. Well,
yeah, right. Although it would be hard to top the award that Jane gave her. So
yeah, I know. I think Jane knocked everything. City Council is going to be scrambling to try to top that. Diane has texted me that she is trying to sign in, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, I think we probably should just go ahead and get started. I resent the link to Diane, so hopefully she will be signing on momentarily. I would like I guess the first thing that we should do is call the meeting to order and call roll.
I just put the agenda up there.
Right.
Okay.
These are yeah, that's the kind of generic plate agenda that we use for all of our meetings. Oh, there we go. Success.
I am so sorry.
That's quite all right. We were just about to go through the roll call.
We just assigned you all the responsibilities, Diane, for the whole
Yeah,
committee.
you're
For a week, for 2 weeks.
Yeah, you have to get everything done in 2 weeks.
okay. So I'll just go down the roll. Just say present if you're when we get to your name. Bradley Booteneyes, Sinead Galvin,
Present.
John Linehan,
Yeah.
Sydney Lang,
And then
Adam Backey,
Present.
Phil Shea, Diane Trad,
Present.
Troy DePisa,
Present.
and Eric Slagle. That's me. I'm here. So I as you can see from the chat screen that Sydney threw up, we are going to kind of skip the first few sections of the agenda because we don't have any new business or any old business. And I think the first thing we should do is go ahead and do introductions of kind of who you are, what is your role that kind of brought you to the CPC, and then we'll go around and have everybody do introductions, and then we'll meet the staff members that are going to be helping us through this process. So I will start. My name is Eric Slagle. I'm the Director of Development Services. That's the land use section of the Department of Planning and Development. I am an ex officio member of the CPC, which means that I'm here by virtue of my position. And so if there's ever another Director of Development Services, that person would be on this board. Diane, will you go next?
I'm Diane Trad, Assistant City Manager and Director of Planning and Development, and I'm in the same role as Eric, where the appointment is by position. So if when someone replaces me, they will be on the board. So.
Sinead, you're next on my on the list.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sinead Galvin. I'm on the Lowell Planning Board. I joined it in January of 2020, so I've been on it for just over a year. And in my daily life, I'm an architect and campus planner at Brown University. The campus is historic, and I also work on their public art plan. So when I saw this opportunity on the committee, I was really interested in joining it. I've been in Lowell for just over 5 years, so I'm pretty excited to be on this. Nice to meet everyone.
Thanks, Sinead. John Linehan.
John Linehan. I'm Chairman of the Board of Parks in the City of Lowell, and I'm appointed to this board by my position thereof. So we have 5 members on the board, and I so chose to take the first round.
Great. Troy DePisa.
Yes, my name is Troy DePisa, resident of Lowell from '97. Currently the Lowell Historic Board, own and operate architectural firm Dream Collaborative in the Boston area, and Steve Stowell, on the board. Yes, he said that this would be a good thing for me, and I look forward to it. Very excited to be on the board with you all. Thank you.
Great. Sydney Land.
Hi, my name is Sidney Ling. I am working at basically from Lowell Community Health Center as a program director there. And mostly I got onto this board just because I'm like a community advocate, and it's appointed through the city manager.
Great. Adam Beck.
I'm Adam Bakey. I was joined this board. I guess I'm a appointee of the city manager as a resident of Lowell as well. I am in my current job. I'm the director of planning, design, and construction for UMass Lowell. But I also spent 14 years working for DPD for the city, including about half that time in the role that Diane now holds. And look forward to the chance to coming back and serving the city in this new role. And particularly interested in Community Preservation Act because I actually wrote my capstone project for my master's degree 20 plus years ago, or 20 years ago now, on the Community Preservation Act and why it was such a challenge for cities in the Commonwealth. So it's actually pretty exciting that Lowell finally has joined the fold, and we get the chance to be part of implementing it here.
Things definitely take time.
Although it did pass on the first go, so we
Yeah.
didn't have to.
Yeah, that's remarkable. I love it. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It is.
Shows how much Lowell's changed, perhaps.
Yes, probably right. So now I wanted to meet the staff that would be administering the CPC. So the two folks who are on this evening are Francesca Sigliano. I know that Sinead is familiar with Fran. She's our senior planner in development services. She she oversees the administration for the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, the Zoning Board, and now the Community Preservation Committee. So, Fran, if you want to introduce yourself and tell.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Fran. I've worked for the city for about 1.5 years now. And I'm really excited to getting into this board, I guess, and seeing what applications roll through. I think it'll be really rewarding and pretty fun. I think we'll see a fun range of projects through this board.
The other staff member that we have is a staff member that would just recently joined the team. Dylan Ricker just came on board as the assistant planner for community preservation. So he has the individual task of keeping track of all of us and the stuff that we are doing and all the applications and the projects that'll be going forward. So Dylan, if you'd like to introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Dylan Ricker. My internet's not working great right now, so you just have to let me know if I cut out. But yeah, so I'm coming here from I was working at Community Teamwork previously while completing my master's degree, and before that I was working at Congresswoman Tsongas's office. I'm really excited to get going on some of the Community Preservation Act programs and seeing what different projects come.
Great. So there are also two other members of the staff who aren't here tonight. We have Jessica Wilson, who is our associate planner, and we have another assistant planner that will be on the staff. I do anticipate that Dylan, with the aid of Fran, will be the primary liaison for this committee with the administration. So the next item on the agenda would be to elect a chair and a vice chair for the committee. I don't know if any folks have any ideas about those positions or any thoughts. I would turn it over to the group to have a discussion about that.
Eric, what do the positions entail?
So that's an excellent question. I think for folks who've been involved in the other boards, it's basically the chair will basically be the person doing what I'm doing tonight, basically running through the meeting and going through the agenda. I don't anticipate there's going to be huge heavy lifting for these positions, but it is the primary point of contact for the staff. If there's a question about scheduling, the room we were going to use is kind of being used for some. We got bumped by the school committee or something. We have to go to a different room, so we just the chair's the one that we kind of the staff usually talks to about those things. If there's any specific contentious items that are going to be on a board meeting, we often interface directly with the chair about those items, so they're aware that something controversial is coming. But in the main, it's just sitting and going through the meeting, calling the agenda, and that sort of thing. And the vice chair is even less than that, because I think they would only do that when the chair was not there. So I would nominate Diane, but as she say, she's only got 2 weeks left.
So
I was going to say, I'd really love to do this, but since I'm leaving, it would be unfair of me.
tongue in cheek.
I guess one question would be whether the city feels it would be better to have one of the ex officio members, particularly yourself, Eric, serve in that role, or whether it would be better to have one of the non-ex officio members serve in the role. Has anyone given thought to that, or is there a preference on the part of the city in that respect?
I don't know that anyone's kind of given thought to that. Other than I don't think the manager has expressed an issue either way, not in my conversations with her. But we really didn't talk a lot about being the chair. So I don't know that it's
because you're doing a fabulous job. So I'd be
thanks,
perfectly
Adam.
happy to nominate you if we do want to go that direction. But
I see where that's going.
Throw them under the bus.
You could have. I gave you the chance there, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I would say about my particular position is that the staff members who are staffing the board do work directly for me. So it might be a little bit weird for me to be the chair, just because I need to be in the role of the chair of the committee and not.
Yep.
I will also be in the weeds, kind of dealing with the applications and everything as well. That might be a little bit odd. That's not something that we've ever had. We don't have any other committees set up like this in the city, so I just don't. That just might be a little bit weird. I'd be happy to serve as the vice chair, though.
Well, maybe we can start there. I'll nominate Eric to be the vice chair.
Okay. Second.
Well, thank you.
I agree.
That leaves Adam as chair.
Hey, you know the most about it, actually, of anyone here.
Yeah, I mean, that capstone
With
project.
the capstone project.
20 years ago.
You know the pitfalls and everything, so I think that is the right person for the job.
I'm sure nothing's changed in the last 20 years, Adam.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, right. I mean, I am willing to do that if you want, but.
Well, I would be
Also
happy
perfectly
to
willing
nominate
to.
Adam to be the chair if
I'll
you're willing.
second.
There you go.
I think, yeah.
So could we do an official motion and seconding of a motion and a roll call for the chair and the vice chair, just so that we have it
Make a
down?
motion to appoint Adam as chair of the committee.
I will second that motion.
I
So
agree.
Okay,
now we need to do a roll call. Fran, you gonna do a roll call for us?
Sure, I can do a roll call. Member Trad,
Yes.
member Slagle,
Yes.
Member Linehan,
Yes.
Member Liang,
Yes.
Member Backey,
Yes.
Member Galvin,
Yes.
Member DePesa,
Yes.
Member Calvin.
He's not a member. Oh,
Jane Calvin, is she on the call?
Yeah, but I'm not voting.
no, but she's
Oh.
just here as a.
She's just tuning in. Oh, okay. Sorry, I was reading off of the participants on the Zoom, so just ignore that.
I'm your odd person out.
Got it.
All right, well, I think that passed. So Adam, you can now run those.
I guess so, yeah. So I guess I'll entertain a motion for a nominee for vice chair. Do we have
Second that.
Well, do we have a motion?
I have a motion to elect Eric Slagle as the vice chair.
Moved and
Yeah.
seconded by Sydney. Do we want to
Alright.
do a roll call for that too?
Yes. Member Backey. Am I saying?
It's Bakey, but I'll answer to
Bakey?
anything
Okay.
close. So
Okay. Member Bakey,
yes.
Member Trad,
Yes.
Member Slagle,
Yes.
Member Liang,
Yes.
Member Linehan,
Yes.
Member Galvin,
Yes.
Member DePesa.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Well, normally I guess I'd start running down the agenda, but I'm not sure I'm familiar with what we're doing here. So I'm going to defer to the vice chair to keep going tonight, but
That's fair. That's actually very fair.
I'll be better prepared next time.
So the kind of the next item on the agenda was to take a look at a tentative schedule for both this first year of us accepting applications and kind of a permanent schedule going forward. We have looked at a bunch of different communities that have done this and tried to come up with a schedule that makes sense. Just by way of background, I don't know how much folks know about the specific process. The first thing that we have to do as a city and as a committee is we have to come up with a community preservation plan. And so Dylan is going to be working with other folks on the staff, Steve Stoll and Fran, and probably myself, among others, along with hopefully some input from our nonprofit groups, to come up with a community preservation plan that this committee will review and approve and submit to the city council for their final approval. And once the plan is in place, which is not, it's not like a master plan or anything. It's not going to be a 300-page document, but once the plan's in place, then we can officially start accepting applications and having some project review by the group. That's going to come up with some deadlines. So we're going to try to build in some time in this first year for that plan to get done, and then start accepting applications sometime later in the year. So I don't know. I talked to Dylan about it. Fran or Dylan, do either one of you have that those dates available?
I believe
Sorry, go ahead, Dylan.
I can't open my internet, my email right now, but I believe the dates were June 1st was for the eligibility forms, July 15th for the full application, and November 15th was the estimated funding date.
So that would give us a few months to get the plan ready, and along with all of the attendant kind of procedural documents like application forms and pre-eligibility forms. Most communities that we've reviewed that have a real robust process around this do actually do pre-eligibility for people. So they submit kind of a very scaled down form that we then review to make sure that they're eligible, and then they submit a full application form. So the eligibility would be in June, the full application would be mid-July, and then we would, between the full application deadline in July and November, review the projects. Most we probably have presentations by all of the applicants to the committee, directly to the committee to make presentations. And then we would award in November. And that the way that process works is we as a committee make recommendations to the city council, and then the city council has the final determination on upholding those recommendations or not. And then in subsequent years, the applications would start in the spring, because we wouldn't have to wait for the plan like we do this year. Does anybody have any kind of thoughts about that process, questions, concerns?
Sounds an awful lot like the model for the federal programs. That seems to be tried and true. So
yeah,
this ought to work pretty well the same way.
Yeah, so we're if nobody has any concerns, we'll as part of our plan preparation, we will put those initial dates for this year in the plan, and then the plan will also obviously have dates for our regular annual annual application process and award process that will more align with getting awards out right around the beginning of summer. I think the typical process works. Housekeeping matters. So we are required, I think, as a committee to meet a minimum of 4 times a year. So this is likely to this is not going to be a monthly, or certainly not a weekly, but probably not even a monthly meeting on a typical basis. That being said, this year we're probably going to be a little bit heavier on the meetings, because we're going to want the committee to take a look at the plan and be a part of the plan process, along with being a part of the review and award process. So there's going to be some extra meetings front loaded into the committee. We don't have them scheduled yet, but I'd like to tonight, if it's possible for folks to take a look at scheduling another meeting, likely sometime in March, to get a presentation from staff on the kind of the process thus far and how we've come on the plan. So I was wondering if March 25th as a next meeting was okay with the folks that are here tonight.
That works for me.
You know, if that is a week that there is another March 25th, that week does not have a holiday on that Monday, correct?
Correct. March doesn't.
Okay. Then it should be good from staffing perspective.
Good with that.
So if everyone's okay with that, we'll like to schedule the next meeting for March 25th at the request of staff, and because I am absent-minded, going forward, we're going to have the meetings at 6:30, align with every other board meeting that we have, and not have one that's off kilter. This is completely my fault. I just completely blanked when I set this meeting, and Fran, I think, said, "Did you not want to set that at 7:30 like every other meeting that we have?" So I think going forward, I think it makes sense to set it at 6:30. I mean, like every other meeting that the land use boards have. So at least those familiar with those board process will know exactly when the meetings are going to start. So we talked about the community preservation plan. We scheduled the next meeting. We looked at the initial dates, and folks seem okay with that.
So Eric, normally how long's the meeting goes? Do we have to like review a project and until certain time, or how's it work?
Well, so different boards and committees can set end dates as part of their internal end times. I mean, as part of their internal processes. The city council has a rule on the books that says they end at 10 o'clock unless it's unanimous to go past that. Other boards and commissions operate with informal rules or sometimes formal rules. So we could set that. I think we probably shouldn't in the beginning. I think we should. I don't anticipate that the first few meetings are going to be heavy lifting meetings. We will probably send out draft copies of what we have done as part of the plan for the board to review, and then we'll come and if folks have comments, they could review them in open session. But we won't be taking any applications until the summer. And I would kind of like to see how that goes. What we probably should do, I mean, we'll look at the process. We're going to cut and paste from other communities as much as we can. Other people have created this wheel, so we're not going to try to recreate it. I do think some folks give applicants, you have a half an hour to do your presentation. So we may have some meetings where we say, we're going to have 4 applicants tonight, and they each have half an hour to do their presentations. And then we're going to meet next week, and we're going to have another 4 applicants to do their presentations. And part of that will probably come down to how many applicants we get. We're a relatively large city, so we might get a lot more than. We have a competition for vice chair there, Adam. Is that the? So we might get a lot more applicants, in which case we'll have to kind of play it by ear to see how long we want to do. But I think that's something we should take a look at once we know the quantity of applicants that we get in. And we can kind of structure our meetings around making sure they all have a fair amount of time to present without turning them into 6-hour marathons for the board, which I know that I, for one, would not be encouraged by doing that on a regular basis on a Thursday night.
Eric, what are the general requirements for applicants? Just broadly, what are the requirements?
Yeah, it might be good to even take a step back away from diving right into the applicants and just talk more generally about what the community preservation, is everybody familiar with what the Community Preservation Act is for, and the eligible project categories and the mandatory project categories and all that sort of thing? Are we all familiar with that from having applied and been interested in this board, or would it be helpful to go over some of that for all of us?
Yeah, it'll be
I think
helpful.
it'll be helpful.
For myself, it would be very helpful. I have a rough idea what it is, but I'll defer to the much learned people on the board.
We're kind of putting you on the spot there. This may not have been planned, Eric, but do you or the staff can you do an overview, or?
I can do an overview.
Or do you want me to try to remember?
No, yes, that's actually a pretty good idea. So to go over I'll even go over the process a little bit. So the city put the Community Preservation Act on at the request of the city council, put it on the ballot for a ballot question back at the end of 2019. So November of 2019, it was on the ballot, a ballot question. It was required to get a majority of the voters who voted to vote for it, and there had to be a certain percentage of voters that participated in the election for it to count. And Lowell met both of those thresholds, and more than a majority of the voters voted for the Community Preservation Act. The City Council had set it up as 1% of the 1% surcharge on the taxes. So each tax bill got a 1% surcharge, with a few exceptions that the City Council put into the ballot question that are authorized by the statute. And what the Community Preservation Act does basically is, because the city is agreeing to put our money from the tax levy into a big pot, the state puts aside some percentage of matching funds that we get I think the last year we got something like 17 or 18%, I believe is what it was, of the funds that we collected. The state then wrote us a check for 17 or 18% of that amount to add into the pot. So at this point in time, the balance in the fund is in excess of $1 million. So there's an account that is overseen by the CFO that has more than $1 million in it that we get the chance to award. And the Community Preservation Act has specific basic buckets that this money can be awarded for. And there are 3 basic buckets. One is historic preservation. The second is open space. And the third is affordable housing. And the way that the statute works is the way that the program works. We are required to set aside 10% of our pool of money for each one of those 3 buckets. So in any given award cycle, we have to give out at least 10% of the money for open space, and at least 10% for affordable housing, and at least 10% for historic preservation. And the remaining 70% is something that we as a committee get to decide whichever bucket we want to put it in. So we can award in any given year up to 80%. So we could say this year we're doing 80% of it towards historic preservation and 10% to affordable housing and 10% to open space. Or because Jane's here, this year we're doing 80% to open space, and we're doing only 10% to affordable housing and 10% to historic preservation. And that is a decision of the board. We have the authority to split up the money however we choose, as long as we give at least 10% to each bucket. In practice, what that means is when projects come in, they have to tell us which bucket they fall in, and we have to make a determination of which bucket they fall in. And then we have to, as the committee, make sure that when we make our awards, each bucket gets represented sufficient so that 10% of the money would be at least in each bucket. So this can fund lots of different types of programs, lots of different things for open space, lots of different things for historic preservation, lots of different things for affordable housing. They recently changed the items that you're allowed to do for open space, so that you're allowed to do maintenance work in open space and historic preservation with Community Preservation Act money, which was something that back when it was originally passed was not allowed. Since deferred maintenance has been a problem in the city for a while, I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to get some requests for funds to maintain historic structures or maintain open space. But those are the buckets. And then, as I mentioned before, once we've gone through our review process and said, these are the however many projects we want to give this money to, then those recommendations go to the city council and they have the final vote on whether or not to adopt our recommendations.
Will is it anticipated that the plan will speak at all to priorities, or is it really going to be more of a document that sort of describes process?
I think both. It's definitely going to describe process, but I also think it's going to at least take broad strokes at priority. We, the city, one of the previous senior planners, Christine McCall, worked with Giovanni Baez-Rose, who is currently a design planner in DPD, but at that time was a neighborhood planner, and they updated the city's open space plan. I believe it was in 2019. They finalized it. So that plan was part of a fairly robust public process. So I think our open space priorities are going to be driven in large part by what they found in the open space planning process. As far as historic preservation and affordable housing, we don't have a pre-existing document that deals with those. So those are going to have to be a little bit more driven by kind of the priorities that the council has set in their kind of requests for motions and requests for increase in housing, ways to increase housing density. So we're going to probably be a little bit broader in those strokes.
So Eric, what if the council, let's say, disagree on the project or the amount of funds? What would happen to that project?
That's an excellent question, Sydney. If the council doesn't vote to fund a project, then it doesn't get funded. They are the ultimate, they appropriate the money from the fund according to our recommendations. What I'm not sure of, and it's something that we can find out certainly, is whether they could change that designation and choose to fund a project that we have not recommended. And that's a good question. I don't know. I haven't looked at that level of detail in the council approval process. I do know they can definitely do a thumbs down. I just don't know if they can take something that we said no to and turn it into a yes.
That would be good to
Can
know.
the funds be used to hire a consultant to do a housing plan?
That's a good question. We'd have to check. Part of the reason why we're going to do the plan and prepare the eligibility process is for us to be able to have. So we're going to have 45 days from the date when people submit their eligibility documents before their final application is due. And during that time, if we get something like that, that I quite frankly don't know, we could reach out to the state or talk to the committee to try to make a determination as to whether or not that was an eligible expense.
Do you have I assume HUD still requires a consolidated plan that speaks to housing priorities, at least to some degree, right? Yes. I don't know when the most recent one of those would be.
Yeah, I'd have to check with, I think Chris Amaris is the so we can check with Chris and figure out what that's
and I don't know how much that has changed over the last few years because HUD has new requirements and I don't know how much it's changed. So we can look at that.
That might be a helpful sort of guide a little bit as well.
The city does have a master plan also that I know speaks in broad strokes to some of these things as well. It is due for an update. And so as that master planning process happens, since it's going to happen in large part by some of the same staff that is going to be working on this, we may go back and amend our community preservation plan based on the public process that comes out of the master plan process. And I think that would probably be a wise thing to do after the master plan anyway. Just look at this plan again and make sure that we're kind of all in the same boat, rowing the same way.
Is there a timeline for the master plan update?
So the master plan update was technically supposed to get started in the spring of 2020. And as we all know, the spring of 2020 was not the time to start any large project. So I know Fran and the city's new chief design planner, Camilo Esposito, have already been having meetings about the master planning process. So they are working on that. I know that the city council had a recent vote about wanting to get an update on the master plan process. So I think it's starting now, but that's a multi-year process too. So it take a couple of years. It took a few years the last time we did it. So it's likely to be a longer planning process this time around as well.
Okay, thanks.
And is there an opportunity for direct public input on the community preservation plan itself? I mean, I know we would be drawing on these other projects, some of which had some pretty robust public processes to them, but I think it might be to the extent that it's about process, I think that's less of an issue, but to the extent that it is about setting any kind of priorities, it would be helpful to have some outreach to both the community at large as well as some of the organizations that are likely to be, participating in implementing the goals, to sort of hear what folks are seeing as the priorities in the community. And I think it would also be good to hear from like the city council, as to what within the specifics of what this program offers, what do they see as some of the priorities for the city, so that I think it's more likely that whatever we recommend aligns with what they're thinking, and we won't necessarily have to answer that question if they feel differently.
Right. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think I think those three things are definitely things that we need to do as the development services staff is going to be working on it to make sure that we get input, like I said, from the nonprofit and then from the folks that are going to be likely applicants, from the council, and we'll see how we can. It's a challenging time to try to get public input, but I think one of the benefits of the silver linings of the pandemic is that folks are becoming more comfortable with interfacing with the government on a technological platform as opposed to in person. So I know that as part of the city's parking study, which they're doing right now, they're doing a lot of the folks that are running that parking study are doing a lot of outreach via social media and putting out of kind of polls and questionnaires, and we can try to work with some of our nonprofit partners to maybe do some of that outreach as well. It is going to have to be quick because I think we're going to have to. We have a quick turnaround we're going to have to do on this, so we can try to see if we can get some questionnaires formatted. Would be a good thing, and maybe if we had some drafts that we could send out to members of the committee to maybe try and plan on pushing those out after our next meeting. So if we put together a draft of our first sort of crack at portions of the plan that deal with process, and then some outreach materials for the committee to review on the 25th of March. If that seems reasonable, I think then we could turn around and try to push that out at the end of March, and then maybe a few weeks after that we could hopefully turn that into some usable information for the plan.
That's great.
Eric, I can just add one thing. So to Adam's question, so in the CPA law, it actually requires a meeting once per year of the committee to get public input in the form of a hearing.
Well, there we go. Hopefully we can do a little more than a formal public hearing, but good.
And obviously, yeah, so obviously that would be a part of it too. So we would kind of try to make it clear, especially to all the nonprofit folks that supported this and have an interest in it, and the city council, at least, that meeting would be for public input. We would set up a future meeting for public input, maybe not the 25th, but a future meeting for public input. And then
that'd be great.
That would give us some feedback.
Also, the other thing that might be useful for the committee would be if there's I have no doubt that someone at the state level has already written this, if not from the state, from some advocacy group, but is there just a nice, relatively simple summary of the program and what's eligible, what's not, and those kinds of things that might just be a good briefing document for all of us to review, so we can next meeting pretend we know a little more about what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think the name escapes me. The Community Preservation
Coalition, I think. Yeah.
Community Preservation Coalition, I know, has put together a lot of documents. They also have samples of plans and of application documents that we've been looking at. So I do think they actually have that, and I think that's a great thing. We should push that out to the members of the committee as soon as maybe tomorrow, even if we can get a hold of it.
Great.
Does anybody else have any other questions, comments? Do we want to open it? I know Jane's been very patiently sitting here. We open it for public questions or comments about the process thus far or the process going forward.
Not even turning on her mic, so
I don't know.
there we go.
I wasn't sure if you had actually opened it, but no, I think I think it's just wonderful that this is passed in Lowell. I think I don't think there's enough recognition that the way it was passed and that it really broke all the norms for how the CPA had been passed otherwise in the state, and that the city should be recognized for that. So, and I will tell you though that yesterday was very bizarre. I had 3 very random national calls about Lowell's CPA. And so I expected there to be more people on this call. It was really kind of funny. But I had somebody call about, and so I had somebody call saying they wanted to see if they could help the city with their cultural resources. I had somebody from the Whistler House call. I had somebody else randomly call and say, who's the state contact? And all of these were like, it just kind of dawned on me that just the trust has CPA information on our website, and that's why it kind of got directed to us. So I know that you guys will build that out on yours, and we'll be happy to like put whatever you guys want on our website too to help get the word out about what's going on. But and I think the toughest challenge from what I've seen with the CPA happening in other communities is that there's a lot of gray areas, and that those will be really interesting to investigate. But luckily, Lowell's far enough coming into the process, far enough down the line that a lot of those gray areas have been more defined. But I think in a city like Lowell, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what kind of projects come forward. So I thank you all for serving.
Thanks, Jane.
Yeah, so I think it is important. I think, as Jane mentioned, to give credit to how this did get passed. I mean, this was unlike a lot of different communities where there's a kind of a groundswell of grassroots activism to get the CPA passed, and lots of people who are already on the ground working on it before it even gets to a city council meeting. This kind of cropped up, surprised all of us that it showed up on the city council kind of with no warning practically, and then rather than there being some grassroots movement, it was kind of the city saying, I guess we're going to go forward and do this. And I do think that Jane and other folks in the nonprofit community saw the opportunity and said, yeah, like we're gonna help get this passed. This is a really weird wave that just kind of like a rogue wave just showed up, but it worked. And I know that Jane and Steve Stoll and other folks in the nonprofit community kind of beat the bushes right before the election to make sure that people were aware that this was on and how they should vote for it, and it worked. So I do think there's it was interesting. It was a very interesting process. Maybe the fact that it's been around for a while and wasn't this brand new program people didn't know how it was going to work might have helped, but I also think there's a changing demographic in Lowell, and that probably helped too. So I think it was an interesting experience to be a part of, and I'm glad that it worked, because ever since I started at the city, I was baffled by the fact that Lowell didn't have the Community Preservation Act. But you have a historic national park in the middle of Lowell, and they don't. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, anything else they want to bring up?
I have these weird questions where, so you have a project coming in, and let's say you awarded some amount of money. Who would probably oversee or evaluate to see whether the project going according to plan, or they just not doing it, or who would follow up on that?
Sure. So that's one of the roles that's going to be a part of Dylan's job. So the assistant planner for community preservation, obviously with support and from Fran and myself and other folks in development services and DPD will be doing the kind of oversight. It's similar to the oversight that gets done with CDBG projects. So we're not going to be project managers, but there is going to be a city staff member that kind of makes sure that they are completing the project and getting the reports from the applicants to make sure that the project is done in the way that they applied for and the funds were spent appropriately. Dylan's probably sitting there realizing the work that I just dumped on his lap. But yeah, I think that's kind of the that's kind of the plan, is that we'll in the office, that's one of the roles that was that position. Well, if there's nothing else, I think that's probably
Sounds like a lot of fun coming ahead for us.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll definitely be interesting. And I've looked at the projects that have come through different municipalities, and they've definitely interesting projects, things that I think people will be excited about being a part of or hearing about. Even even the little ones, little projects have some.
No, I think this will be a good board for everyone to participate with, because I think that you will get exciting projects. It'll be interesting to see who the applicants are.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Interesting to see the projects, yes.
I'll just drop in as a public person.
yeah. Diane, you're
More than welcome, Diane. We will benefit from your wisdom and guidance.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I guess we need a motion to adjourn then, if someone wants to make that.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second? All right.
Do we have updates as to the next meeting? Somebody sending stuff up to all of us?
Yes. So the staff will be sending out. We'll send out a reminder of the next meeting date, which is going to be March 25th.
Okay.
Along with, as Adam suggested, some information, kind of a primer, I think, that the Community Preservation Coalition has on the CPA itself, and kind of the kind of projects that we can look at. Obviously, if anybody has any general questions, you can feel free to reach out to the staff or myself with kind of general questions. We can't do any deliberations about specific projects, but just the general program or anything, we can certainly, if you have any questions about that, I'd be glad to.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Me too. All right.
Great thing.
Sounds good.
All right.
Meeting adjourned, right, Adam?
I guess so. Yeah.
Everybody.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Have
Thanks,
fun,
everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
good night.
Maria.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
Dylan.
Don't forget Valentine's Day.
Bye.